that, my name is Karin Ellis and I am connected with Speak Norsk. I also run my own company, Ellis Culture. I'm the founder and daily owner of the company. And for a living, I develop and conduct courses. Now let me see now if I'm able to share my screen for you. No, not after I started, so I will just do this verbally then. Okay, so in these times of Corona, there has been a steep learning curve for a lot of people, I think, getting ready with online products and services. So, yes, I'm going to show you the books that I have written. So what I will be presenting for you today are extracts from these books. Working with Norwegians, and well, it will be an extract from Applying for Jobs in Norway, this session that I will be doing for you today. And today I'm going to talk about getting started in Norway. I will give you some tips to how to get started in a job in Norway if you don't already have one. And I will be talking also about some special tips related to the Corona crisis. And then I will be talking about the opportunities you will have and the pitfalls, the common mistakes that a lot of job seekers have when they apply for jobs in Norway. The common mistakes that they typically make when they apply for jobs in Norway. I will also talk a little bit about what to do if you're overqualified for a job, because I find that a lot of people who are non-Norwegians, they apply for jobs who they are overqualified for. So I will give you a few tips about that, what to avoid related to that. And then lastly, I will talk about how to sell yourself. So, and my background for writing these books and doing these courses is that I have worked in Norwegian workplaces with an international presence for 30 years. And in my career, I have been an employee like you are or want to be. I have been a leader for 20 years, and I have also been a recruiter. So I have been on both sides of the table. And in 2012, I was asked to make these courses for a large university in Norway. So that's when I started making these courses. So first I want to say something about getting started in Norway. Getting started in Norway in your first job is hard. Even for Norwegian job seekers, it can be very hard. To get the first job. I know of Norwegians who have spent a long time searching for their first job. So I think a good advice would be to lower the threshold by not looking or expecting to get the dream job as the first job you're looking for. And one thing in Norway that has a high value is when people take voluntary jobs. And voluntary jobs are jobs where you don't get paid, but you get a lot of satisfaction from helping others. And such jobs can be found with the Red Cross, for instance. And there is a web page called frivillig.no that is a portal with all the voluntary jobs in Norway. In my book, Applying for Jobs in Norway, I have lots of links to relevant pages. But so the easiest job to get for you would be to have a voluntary job. And then the second most easy job to get would be to have a temporary job. And if you work as a temporary worker in a company, you would be able to prove what you're good for. So you would be in a better position for a permanent job later. And also a lot of companies have an internal job market that is not visible to external candidates. So you will be able to know firsthand about any jobs that are available in the company. I would also encourage you to look for jobs outside of city centers. Jobs, if you are willing to commute for 30-40 minutes out of the city you're living in, you will be more successful probably because it's easier to get jobs outside of the city centers. In northern Norway, they are constantly looking for new hands for people, but there may be a reason why you are not in northern Norway. So, but people, Norwegians in northern Norway are known for being very friendly. So it's easier to make friends in northern Norway if you would consider going there. Fisheries are also in constant need of more people, and the health sector are always wanting more people, and especially these days in the corona times, they are looking for people. Even people, I think they're even looking for people who, without health qualifications, who can be like watch people and also cleaners and in the administration and so on. Schools and kindergartens are often looking for, especially for temporary workers. If you were to work in school or kindergarten, of course you would need to know some Norwegian. Restaurants and bars, when they open again after the corona lockdown, they will often hire non-Norwegians. Drivers, driving jobs, and construction and maintenance. And if you think that having such a job as a job that you are a job that has lower qualifications than you really have, and if you think it looks bad for your career later on, this is Norway. We are very egalitarian. So in Norway, the will to work is very much valued. So it will not work against you if you've taken a job that requires lower qualifications than you have. Because of the coronavirus, there are some new needs for jobs now. There are shops and warehouses and logistics company needing more people. Food production, more people are needed. Public services, information services, IT, and again health services are in need of people. And one of the temporary agencies called Manpower, if you visit their web page, you will see that they are looking for people for temporary jobs in the corona crisis. And there are jobs in the agriculture. The agriculture in Norway will need to have more people for food production. Right now, at the moment, the sheep are getting babies. They are getting the lambs, and the farmers need help with the lambing. And then in a few weeks there will be the seeding and planting of potatoes and vegetables and fruit. And so they are in acute need of people, because the agriculture used to have seasonal people who came from other countries to work in Norway, and now the borders are closed, so it's very difficult for them to get enough workers. So this is something you could do temporarily while you're looking for another job. And if I'd been able to show my presentation, I could have shown you some web pages, but you can start with NAV, the NAV web page, and see what they recommend. So those are the opportunities. And then I want to talk about some common mistakes that non-Norwegians typically make when they apply for jobs in Norway. And I would say the biggest mistakes that people make when applying for jobs in Norway is that they assume that the job application process is exactly the same as in their home country. And they assume that they can act and do and fill in the documents the same way as they would in their home country. So ignoring the cultural differences is the main challenge. And if you stay on in this live stream, I will explain what I mean about that by explaining the typical mistakes that are made. And I think the biggest mistake, in addition to ignoring the cultural differences, is to sell your competence in the wrong way, which is also something I will talk about later, the way you present yourself towards the employer. Another mistake that is quite common is that a lot of people don't call the contact people in the advertisement. So there is an advertisement, you read it, and there are usually two contact persons, two people listed. One is usually the departmental manager, and the second one is usually somebody from HR. Then if I were you, I would call them, because then that might give them a good impression of you. You will be able to ask them questions which will enable you to tailor your application even more than those who have not bothered to call. But having said that, another common mistake is to call them and ask the wrong questions. So if you call them, you need to ensure you ask the right questions. And in my book, I have examples of good and bad questions to ask. And just to generalize on what are the good questions and what are the bad questions, I would say that good questions are specific information related to the job that you cannot find on their webpage and related to your qualifications. So for instance, if you lack some of the qualification, but you have some other qualifications, you could ask about that. Or asking when the person would start in the new position, if this isn't written in the job advert. So these are kind of good questions. And bad questions are questions that you can find easily on the webpage, or asking how much salary you will get. If you ask what kind of salary you will get, it will appear to them that you are only applying because of the money and nothing else. And they prefer to look for people who are more motivated than just the money. Another common mistake is to think that you have to meet all criteria in the job advertisement. So there is a long list usually, and if you lack some of them, you should not be put off by that, because you should think of the job advertisement as a wish list. So this is the dream candidate, has all those qualifications. But in my book, I also show statistics of how many candidates companies end up hiring who actually lack quite a few of those qualifications. And it's quite a large number of candidates who are recruited. So don't think that you will need to have all the qualifications listed in a job advert. You can still apply even if you don't have them all. Other common mistakes related to the CV and application letter is that your CV and application letter should be what I call a Norwegian style. And in my book I have several examples. And if you buy the book, you will get a bonus package where you get templates, electronic templates in Norwegian and English for CVs and application letters. And you actually get two of each, two English and two Norwegian. of both CV and application letter, and also of something called testimonial, which is a reference letter written by the employer, but which you may have to write yourself in some circumstances. So you will have templates of that. So the thing is, if your CV and application letters are not like the Norwegian style, there is a chance that the employer will put your documents in the wrong pile just because of the layout and the content of the document. And you don't want that. Because research shows that many employers admit that they spend about 20 seconds on each application to decide whether they want to read the rest. So you want to make sure that in those 20 seconds, the employer wants to read more. So I'm writing in the book how you can do that by having a strong opening in your documents. Another mistake is to have a time gap in your CV. So even if you spent time traveling around the world to explore the world, you should put it in the CV where there would otherwise be a time gap. If you have stayed at home with your children, that's fine. Put it in your CV. If you've been unemployed, it doesn't really look very good that you have been unemployed for a long time without having any jobs. So in such cases, it is better to have had a job a temporary job or a job with lower qualifications. Or if you have studied Norwegian in that period of time, it's better to write that you have studied something rather than giving them the impression that you have been idle and lying on a sofa doing nothing. Another mistake, or not mistake, but another challenge for a lot of non-Norwegian candidates is that they don't have Norwegian references on the CV. As far as you can, you should have at least one Norwegian reference. The more the better, up to 4 references, say. And if you don't have any Norwegian references, try to be creative. If you're learning Norwegian, maybe your Norwegian teacher can be a reference for you. Your Norwegian teacher, if you have been attending physical classes, your Norwegian teacher will be able to say a lot of things about you, such as this person was punctual, was active in classes, had a good progress, and so on. So even a Norwegian teacher will be able to say a lot of things about you as a person. When we talk about references, another mistake related to references is if you don't ask them first. So make sure if you use any references on your CV, make sure you ask them first. I had that happening to me. I was a reference for somebody and he asked me too late, so the employer already called me and asked me, and I was very surprised and unprepared when I got that call, so I wasn't too happy about it. And then later in the day, this guy called me and said, "Oh, would you be my reference?" And then it had already happened. Another mistake I see is that people walk around, or at least they hand out their CVs without any application letter. And I would really, if you are walking around with your CV to possible employers, you should also have an application letter saying why you want to work for them. Yeah, and one thing I forgot to say about the CV and application letter, and I think this is the biggest mistake. This is one of the top 3 mistakes that people make. So this is really important, is that the CV and application letter are not tailored to each position and each employer. So make sure that you tailor each letter and CV to the employer. I said earlier that many employers only spend 20 seconds deciding whether to read the rest. Now, if you just hand out or send a standard CV and standard application letter which has not been tailored specifically to this job and this company, then they will see it, and they will see that you're not very motivated, you're not very interested, so it will work against you. So this is very important. And in my book I write about how to tailor and how much and so on. So that was the documents, and then let me talk a little bit about the interview. I have a separate session about interviews, and if you find this useful, you should attend one of those free online sessions. Look for it on Facebook. If you like the Ellis Culture Facebook or the Speak Norsk virtual classes Facebook pages, if you like us, you will be updated and you will see when we also record live. And again, I also cover this in more in depth than I'm able to do now in the book. So the common mistakes in the interview is, first of all, lack of preparations. And by preparing, I think there are several things, but you need to prepare proper responses to the questions you think you're going to be asked. So in my other session about job interviews, I have the most likely questions. I also have them in the book. So you need to practice on those questions and on why should they hire you. Find your unique selling points. Why should they hire you? Try to think out of the box. Now, and by that I mean try to be creative. Think more than just your professional skills. For instance, if you have people skills, whether you have been helping your elderly parents or whether you have worked with customers before or had people interaction and you like to work with people, make sure that is also included in addition to like technical skills and so on. You could also say you come from a hard-working culture if it is true. And one thing is that everything you say in the job interview and in your papers should be true. If you lie, it will work against you. They will find it out either during the job interview or at a later point, and that will be a problem for you later. Another mistake is that people, when they think of the questions they might get in the job interview, they only think of the answers or the responses inside their heads instead of practicing aloud. It's very important to practice aloud. And the first thing you could practice on, for instance, after this session is, how would you describe yourself? Now, after this session, go and try it, and you will find it's much harder than you think to describe yourself for a job interview. Yeah, somebody is saying about language. This is in English today, and if you want this in Norwegian, I will read the chat log, and we can also put up a session in Norwegian. Okay? Yeah. And this book is, by the way, it's also in Norwegian. It's called Kunsten å søke jobb i Norge, in Norwegian. Yeah. So another mistake that people make is that they don't expect to get any personal questions in job interviews in Norway. This is a difference between Norway and many other countries. They will ask you some personal questions, and the reason for it is that they will want to know more about you as a person. So that's the reason. So be prepared for some personal questions. They could be, what made you move to Norway? How long are you planning to stay in Norway? Do you have children? If you haven't written it in your CV, which I recommend you do, they will ask you about your interests. If you haven't written it in your CV, which I recommend that you write in your CV, this is what I mean about Norwegian style CV, what we actually put in the CV, and so on. So personal questions are quite common. And another mistake could be if you are very passive and don't ask any questions. So not asking any questions in a Norwegian job interview would be considered as very passive. So I recommend that you prepare some questions in advance that you can ask during the interview. Then you have the body language. So having a weak handshake will not give the best impression in Norway, because in Norway we prefer a firm handshake. Lack of eye contact can be for some sign of respect, but in Norway it will not give a good impression during the job interview. So make sure that you maintain eye contact with the people interviewing you. And it could be more than one person, by the way. It could be a panel of 2 or more people. And not smiling also can be negative, because in Norway job interviews are usually very friendly, and smiling is fine. Even joking, if it's natural and not forced, even joking would be okay. So that's the body language. And then another mistake is if you're not appropriately dressed, can also be a mistake, because if you are wearing what they would consider the wrong clothes, they might think that this person will be wearing the wrong clothes also in important meetings and so on. So make sure you are appropriately dressed. And this depends on the job you are applying for. But I write in the book, I write a lot about things not to wear during the interview. So, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what to do if you're overqualified, because I know a lot of non-Norwegians who come to Norway, they find themselves applying for jobs they are not qualified for. And will they get it or not? It depends. So clearly, if you are applying for a job you're overqualified for, the employer will think that you are not going to stay there for long. So make sure applying for jobs you're overqualified for is fine, as long as you pick jobs that don't require a lot of training. So if they would have to train you for 6 months and you're overqualified for them for the job, they wouldn't want to invest in you for that training. So make sure if you're applying for a job you're overqualified for, look for jobs that require very little training. And one example I like to use is applying for a job as a barista. Now, making coffee does not require a lot of training. So that is a job, that's a good example of a job you could apply for. Or working in a bar, another example. It would also give you a perfect opportunity to learn Norwegian while you were there, which is something you could write in your application letter as part of your motivation. And if you wonder what impact will this have on your future career, to have had jobs you were overqualified for, will you be perceived as a loser or anything like that? No, you will not. The answer is no. So you can list these jobs in your CV. In fact, you should do. Otherwise, you will have time gaps. And these jobs will also give you future references. And it will be perceived as if you're willing to work hard. So this will be perceived as something positive. Yeah. So last thing I'm going to mention is that how you should sell yourself. Now, if you haven't heard about janteloven, the law of jante in Norwegian, janteloven, you should go and read about it and find out what it is. So, and janteloven was written by a Danish author. It's fiction, and it describes the Scandinavian urge to conform in society. So, and it has 10 rules, and all the rules go something like, you're not to think you're anything better than us. So if you present yourself as, I was the best in my class, I am the best programmer, I am excellent, my skills are outstanding, and so on, it will work against you. It will create a suspicion, because they will believe that this is not credible. So you need to sell yourself in a modest and down-to-earth way. And whilst doing that, you also need to emphasize on your motivation. So you can use phrases such as, I am very interested in, I have a passion for, or I like very much. And then you have to make sure that you match the requirements in the job advertisement as much as you can. And sell yourself on the right level by saying, I have experience with or from, I think I am a good candidate, or I think I could contribute with. So this is quite humble. Yep. I get very good or excellent feedback on, or other people say. So these are ways, very humble, very down to earth ways of selling yourself. So be careful of bragging too much about myself. I knew a lady who, or I saw a CV where she had written that she would like to provide legendary service to customers. Using words such as legendary service, it sounds very exaggerated in Norway. It's just too much. I was the employee of the month. I am excellent, successful, accomplished. My skills are outstanding. All of these should be avoided. And be careful so that you don't take the credit of others. Like, the project was successful thanks to me, will sound terrible in Norwegian eyes. But if you instead said that the project, I was in a very good team, in an excellent team, and we managed to finish the project successfully because I had such wonderful colleagues or something, that would resonate very well in Norwegian ears, because in Norway we like to promote teamwork. We like people who are able to work in teams and who are able to be a positive contribution to the teams they are in. And they will listen in the job interview for how you present yourself and how you interact with other people and your colleagues to see if you're a good team player or not. And similarly, you should not criticize your past employer or colleagues. What else? Lastly, don't tell them what to think or do. That you should invite me for a meeting or a job interview, or I am a perfect fit for the job. Don't tell them what they should think. You don't know if you're a perfect fit for the job because you don't know enough about the job, and you certainly don't know who else has applied for the job. So that was what I had prepared for you today. I hope you liked this session. I had a question about language, and as mentioned already, I will be doing this in Norwegian as well. So stay tuned to the Ellis Culture Facebook page and to the Speak Norsk virtual classes, and we will keep you informed. I also have a package. You can buy these books either in a package, or you can buy them separately, one by one, by visiting the Ellis Culture. Let me see, like this, the ellisculture.com page. If you found this useful and would like to read more, you can read the books, or you can attend future seminars. And you can also reach out to me on the Ellis Culture Facebook page and ask me questions. Yeah, I'm getting thank you for the information. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for attending. And I'm sorry if you tried to attend at 3 o'clock. We had some technical problems, which I hope will be solved for future seminars. So by that, I wish you a nice Easter. Stay safe in these corona times, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.